In this video, things are getting very meta. We're examining the cult of Tesla retail stock investors. That would be you and I. We'll also look at some of Tesla's largest shareholders and some juicy behind the scenes details. And before we get into it, if you want to instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon and investment themed merch in the merch store. So I want to start out by pointing out something that is both obvious and extremely important. There's something different about Tesla. Very different. Maybe you've noticed. As I tweeted this morning, take a moment to appreciate how unusual it is that an army of fanboys and fangirls rant and rave about Tesla's products, and another, often overlapping army of fanboys and fangirls rave about the company and Tesla stock. I told you this was a very meta video. This is not normal, but it is justified. The entire ecosystem that has popped up around Tesla, the company and the stock, is nuts. It all makes sense. The products are incredibly compelling. The tech is amazing. The company is like no other and the opportunity is unique. But it's still a total mindfuck. I think the secret sauce is something like compelling products, plus inspiring mission, plus enormous opportunity, plus incredible execution, plus brilliant leadership, plus a disdain for convention. It is really insane to think about the number of non-employees whose career revolves around this company. Can you imagine telling a person in 1980 that people would tweet 24/7 about a company and make a living doing so? Or that obscure merch would sell thousands of units? And the strangest thing of all is that the Tesla Q dolts don't realize how important and relevant this stuff is. At best, they ask, why is it that this army of fanboys, fangirls and creators exists? And conclude, Tesla must be paying them. No other possible explanation. Go short Tesla stock. In just a moment, we're going to run through a Bloomberg article discussing retail stock investors. But first, I want to share a few data points that literally no one else could possibly share with you. Things that I genuinely believe really matter. Now, I share these data points knowing full well that 99% of the audience will understand the message here, the reason I'm sharing this information, and how this ties into today's video. However, if you're among the bottom 1% of humanity, in terms of personality traits, and yes, there is a bottom 1%. If you're in it, just skip the next couple of minutes because you're probably going to get panties in a twist, misunderstand, misconstrue, and really ultimately not understand the message of today's video. I seriously mean that, by the way. If you hate yourself, if you're negative, pessimistic, full of envy, jealousy, rage, hatred, you have an inferiority complex, you're deeply insecure, and so on, just skip the next couple of minutes. For everyone else, stick with me. This really matters, and I do understand, like I said, the bottom 1%, they're going to take this the wrong way, but the rest of you, I do have a point to make, so let's have a look. Approximately 2 years ago, I launched the Solving the Money Problem merch store. And by the way, thanks to everyone who's picked up merch. I really appreciate it. Not only does it support the channel, but also they are great conversation starters. Many people purchasing merch to support the channel, but the truth is most people aren't buying the merch to support the channel. They're buying the merch because of the designs. They want a great conversation starter. It wouldn't have mattered who designed the merch, who made the merch. It would have sold because there was demand for this. Meme shirts, Tesla stock to the moon, all in Tesla stock, Tesla hodler, don't bet against Elon. You guys have seen the merch designs a million times. I plug them for a reason. This is a really important data point. In my tweet thread earlier, I talked about thousands of units of obscure merch. I've just checked my best-selling piece of merch, 1,774 units sold in total since the store launched. And we are talking niche, extremely obscure stuff here. Literally, in fact, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. 7,741 orders made. Can you name a single other company on the planet in which even close to these numbers of merch would be sold? I can't. I really can't. Can you imagine an Apple fanboy walking around with a shirt all in Apple stock? I mean, there are probably people that are all in Apple stock, but would there be demand for this merch? I doubt it. And this really matters. Like I said, in my tweet thread, this is the kind of stuff Tesla Q just completely ignored. Totally irrelevant, right? It's actually really relevant. In total, the merch store, in about the first 2 years online, has sold close to 10,000 individual units of Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch. And of course, every single dollar of profit from these merch designs has gone straight into Tesla stock. Talk about meta. And again, I want to emphasize, this really matters. You might think, come on, man, is this really relevant? Yes, it is. This is the cult of Tesla retail stock investors. This company has an army of fanboys and fangirls who care so much about the company, the mission, the products, the stock, that these kind of numbers are actually possible. The next data point is this very channel. I told you this was a very meta video. Unbelievably, I did not plan this out, guys, but no fucking shit. Since the channel launched, November 2019, there have been officially 69.6 million views of published videos, not including live streams, which themselves tally to over 1.1 million views, and I have no idea what the unspecified content even is. Let's break this down to watch time. Views are irrelevant. How many seconds of people's valuable time have they traded to watch this content? So here we are on watch time. 10.5 million hours. Think about that for a minute. 10.5 million hours of watch time on Tesla-centric content. Yeah, okay, 0.5% of the content on Nikola, pointing out frauds and so on. But generally speaking, almost every single video I make on this channel is about Tesla, Tesla stock, or Elon Musk. Exactly how long is 10.5 million hours? I can't even. 10.5 million hours of watch time. Remember, these aren't views. This is hours of watch time. 10.5 million hours of watch time is 1,198 calendar years. And if you're really bad at math, that is 11.98 centuries. Let's round it up to 12 centuries. Or more than 1 millennium. More than 1 millennium of Tesla watch time in the last less than 3 years. I launched the channel in November 2019. Now, I'm not really sure if there's an Apple Daily or a Dave Lee on Amazon or a Solving the Money problem for Google, but it's worth pondering. How many other companies would you need to aggregate content on to accumulate this kind of watch time? If you took every single video that's been made on Apple in the last 2.5, call it almost 3 years, plus Amazon, plus Google, plus name your other companies, combine them all together, would you even approach this kind of a number? I find that unlikely. Happy to be proven wrong though. The final data point I'd like to present before we read the article on Tesla retail stock investors is regarding Patreon. I've just found a website called Graphtreon. I don't know if this is legit. I'll assume their information is valid, but hey, do your own research. You never know. This website says there are a little over 220,000 different creators on Patreon. If you're a nerd and want to check out some of the numbers and details here, feel free to pause the video. By the way, you guys might be wondering, what the hell is this? This is the number of individual Patreon pledges over the last 1 year. What the fuck is going on? Why does this look like a saw? This is called monthly churn. There's a lot of people who sign up for 1 month, try and watch, download as much content as they possibly can, and then fuck off. When I was 19 and broke as fuck, I would have done the same thing. So you'll notice there's a lot of volatility, but overall the trend clearly up. Interestingly, I note in the navigation of all the different categories, we have podcasts, probably the most popular, then games, then video, then 3D printing, then comics, then music, then adult games, adult animation, adult photography, adult video, adult. There's clearly a lot of adult-centric content on Patreon. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see some pictures of my butthole. So I did a little bit of digging here, looking at the top 1,000 creators on Patreon. Something I found rather startling is this: Solving the Money Problem. Number 282 based on number of Patreon supporters, not monthly revenue. Many creators don't publish this, others do, but based on number of Patreon supporters. 4,296. Solving the Money Problem's Patreon page is in the top 300 all time on Patreon out of over 220,000. That puts it in about what the top 0.15% give or take. And by the way, just for context, to make the top 100, you need about 7,500 supporters, and some of the absolute monsters at the absolute top of the list here, number 1, 2, and 3, close to 10 times as many supporters as I currently have on Patreon. True Crime Obsessed, nearly 50,000. Tim Dillon Show, over 43,000 supporters. Now, as I said, I find this truly startling. Tesla-centric content is about as obscure and anti-mainstream as you can get. Yet the Patreon page I've created for this channel, which is probably about 50% Tesla content and about 50% other stuff and plenty of things that'll probably get me cancelled one day, the fact that this tiny little obscure channel has managed to get within about 1 order of magnitude of the biggest Patreon account by supporters, period, in the world is just fucking bizarre. It is so out of proportion. Let me give you just one simple example. Just imagine instead of Tesla only, I was talking about every fucking stock on the planet. Surely you would assume, much larger audience. More people interested in stocks and investing in general than just Tesla stock, right? I think this is a fair assumption. So I guess the short story is this Patreon page is really punching above its weight. And this again goes back to the point about the cult of Tesla retail stock investors. This stuff really matters. I hope you guys are getting the point here and really understanding the implications. I'm not arrogant enough to think that people are supporting me on Patreon because of me. I'm sure there's a small subset of supporters who really just want to see what's my opinion on this, that, or the other subject. But I think the vast majority of people supporting me on Patreon are there for Tesla-centric content, deep dives, new thoughts, analysis, and so on. This is just so out of proportion. By the way, just out of interest, if you are already supporting me on Patreon, please let me know in the comments below why. What's the main reason you're supporting on Patreon? Is it for extra Tesla content? You just want to support the channel? You appreciate the daily videos here on YouTube? You want to see my thoughts and opinions about stuff that's likely to get me cancelled one day? Let me know in the comments below. This will be very insightful. What's more, if you were to aggregate all of the Patreon supporters across all of the Patreon pages for all of the Tesla creators, you got to be talking 10, 15, 20,000 plus people in total. What? Talk about an anomaly. Now, let's get into the article. Over on Bloomberg, quote, Elon Musk's many Korean fans have built a $15 billion Tesla stake. And just a quick mention, speaking of my Patreon page, my Patreon supporters will already know I've reverse engineered approximately how many billion, maybe million dollars worth of Tesla stock my Patreon supporters themselves own. Somewhere in this ballpark. Let's just leave it at that. For those curious, that was in the just wow video. In a country where economic inequality has inspired Parasite and Squid Game, retail investors hoping for a ticket to prosperity have amassed a huge position in the electric car maker. Apparently, this is an illustration of South Korean Tesla stock investors. Park Sung-hyun, sorry if I butchered the name there, and her husband sold their home in Seoul, moved into a rental apartment with their 7-year-old son, and plowed the family's $230,000 of savings into shares of Tesla. They're not alone in betting everything on Elon Musk's electric car maker. That is most definitely true. Any all-in Tesla stock investors? Let me know in the comments below. Throughout the scamdemic, I always pronounce that wrong, individual South Koreans thronged into Tesla stock, increasing their combined holdings more than 100-fold to exceed $15 billion. It makes them key stakeholders in one of the largest companies in the world by market value, with a collective share as big as those of Larry Ellison or US money manager T. Rowe Price Group. They tend to be dip buyers who jump in when the stock retreats, helping curb declines. But there's an unhappy undercurrent to such enthusiasm. As South Korea's wealth gap widens, many of these investors see risky bets on stocks and cryptocurrencies as their only realistic path to financial independence. Tesla is a favorite of retail traders worldwide. What a disgusting word. Traders. Ugh. I'm not actually sure this is true, to be honest. I don't think there's that many quote-unquote retail traders in Tesla stock. There's plenty of traders in Tesla stock, but I think most of the retail owners of Tesla stock tend to be intelligent and long-term in terms of investing, kind of the same thing, not going to lie, who are looking into the distant future and going, holy f***, this opportunity is ridiculous. I don't want to be regretting selling Tesla stock in 2032 or 2042 or 2069, so I'm going to hodl. Let me know in the comments below if anyone watching has ever sold a single share of Tesla stock. 1, why'd you do it? And 2, more importantly, do you regret it? But Musk has generated a following in the country with something that approaches cult-like fervor among struggling wage earners. They call themselves Teslams, blending the words Tesla and Islam to show the strength of their faith in the company. Some sign off on tweets with the word Temen, their play on Tesla, and Amen. I'm resisting the urge to share my thoughts on religion once again. Park and her husband, university graduates who landed jobs in the finance sector before marrying and starting a family, hadn't planned on risking everything on Tesla. Then the already hot property market reached a boiling point when the central bank cut interest rates to a record low after the plague outbreak began in 2020. And here's a fascinating chart. The top hodlers of Tesla stock, I think they spelled hodler wrong. Anyway, Elon Musk with a 14.8% stake. Retail investors, excluding South Korea, aka us minus South Korea. Shout out to everybody from South Korea watching. I believe you guys make up about 0.3% of the audience. Pretty impressive given the fact this is an English language channel. So retail investors excluding South Korea, 12.9%. And per my recent estimates on Patreon, where I reverse engineered a poll, seems like about 10% of them currently supporting on Patreon. Vanguard Group, 6.5%. Now this is interesting, by the way. Notice that the second largest group of investors, if you aggregate retail investors as an individual, the second largest shareholder of the company. So all Tesla retail stock investors combined have an approximately equivalent share in the company as Elon Musk himself. That's pretty cool. Vanguard, 6.5%. BlackRock, 5.3%. Capital Group, 3.1%. State Street, 3%. South Korean retail investors, 1.6%. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. Natixis, 1.5%. Larry Ellison, absolute legend. Very interesting human being, Larry. 1.4%. Geode Capital Management and T. Rowe Price Group, also 1.4%. The couple had sold their home in late 2019, hoping to buy a bigger one. As they say, hope is not a strategy. But were left stranded as prices accelerated beyond their borrowing capacity. The same story has played out in many countries recently, but it's emblematic of South Korea, where the cost of apartments in the greater Seoul metropolitan area doubled over the past 5 years, outpacing pay increases by more than 80 percentage points. A typical 3-bedroom apartment, the most popular size, costs about 1.2 billion won, around $925,000 in Seoul on average, according to Kookmin Bank. Not cheap. Then again, speaking as somebody who's currently living in Sydney, Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Seems like somebody bought into the lie everyone's told. I thought I would live well by working at a good company after college. Study hard, get a good job, everything will be fine, get on the conveyor belt, join the rat race, yeah. Doesn't always work out that way. But the reality is that we are the poorest in our neighbourhood, says Park, 40, echoing the kind of frustration that helped inspire Netflix's Korean drama, Squid Game. Living as a salaried worker, there are so many limitations. I absolutely agree, by the way. The idea of working for somebody else, being somebody else's bitch, repulses me. I've never been more unhappy in my life than when I was working for someone else. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being a wage slave. If you're comfortable, if you don't want to take on the risk, the responsibility, totally get it. I think most people are much more suited to just doing what they're told, have a nice stable income, blah, blah, blah. But Park is right here. When you're working for somebody else, there are many limitations, including an income ceiling, plus a lot of restrictions and a total lack of freedom. You don't get to choose your own hours. I could go on and on and on and on. Red flags abound. Apparently relating to Tesla stock. I may take issue with some of these comments. There's Musk's high-profile disputes with regulators, his on-again, off-again bid for Twitter Inc., and the volatility it's caused in Tesla's share price. Now, quick moment here. Of these alleged red flags, how many of these have anything to do with Tesla stock, their execution, their technological lead, the competitive landscape? Nothing. These are not red flags. To an unsophisticated investor, they may appear to be red flags, but to somebody who actually does their homework, does the thinking, even though it hurts, these are not red flags. In fact, these are great opportunities artificially suppressing the price of Tesla stock because some people go, oh, red flags! And other people go, wait, it's got nothing to do with their execution. They're killing it. Their wait times are insane. Their profitability is insane. Growth is insane. The company's insane. Their leadership's insane. Their engineering technology is insane. The big brain engineers are insane. Blah, 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 blah. So I do want to emphasize the fact that many people perceive there to be a lot of red flags on Tesla creates a great opportunity for those of us who can see through the BS and see reality for what it is. But investors such as Park find excitement in the drama. Although Tesla shares have dropped more than 25% from their 2021 high, they're still up 1,900% over the past 3 years. Indeed. That compares with an increase of about 40% for Samsung, the most widely held stock in the country, and even less for Korea's Kospi index. Quote, with this man, I thought we could go all in, says Park, who bought at an average price of $668 per share. Obviously, these are not split-adjusted prices. Well below the close of $870 on August 22nd. She and her husband see Musk as a visionary who will succeed in continuing to effect change in the auto industry. Quote, he's doing things that nobody was thinking of before, she says. Individual Koreans held about 1.6% of the company's equity as of August 17, according to calculations by Bloomberg News-based data from Korea's Central Securities Depository. That's more than their combined investments in Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia, the data show. There are no official figures on the total holdings of US retail Fucking stop calling them retail traders, you morons. Triggered much? It fucking does my head in. This is a dirty word. Also find it intellectually insulting to call us traders. Traders are the clowns we see on CNBS, trying to make quick money, fast money, betting on this, that, or the other. In the stocks casino. Please don't conflate these two terms. Investing is not trading. Trading is not investing. There's nothing wrong with trading. If you acknowledge you're in the stocks casino, aka trader, totally fine. I'm not judging. But to conflate the idea of being an investor and trader as if they're interchangeable terms is just moronic. Again, I want to go back to the point. Tesla stock down 25% from the 2021 high, but up over 1,900% over the past 3 years. Short-term trader might be down 25%. A long-term investor might be up 1,900% or more. So, there are no official figures on total holdings of US retail traders in Tesla, which is assumed to be larger given the bigger pool of investors in its home market. And yeah, again, from my reverse engineered Tesla stock holdings from Patreon supporters, this is quite clear. I've got some juicy data there. I mean, I don't know where anyone else could find this stuff and extrapolate, but yeah, I'm almost certain the dollar amount of Tesla stock owned by US retail shareholders is significantly above this figure. And how can I extrapolate? Like I said, reverse engineered from a poll, well over 1,200 votes on Patreon. Plus, I know how many people in the US watch the channel, blah, 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 blah. It's easy to figure it out. We also see an estimate here that individuals globally, excluding Elon Musk and Larry Ellison, own about 15% of the company. The allure of Tesla is even stronger among people in their 20s and 30s, who have fewer assets to start with than couples such as Park and her husband. Younger Koreans see little opportunity to follow their parents into the property market and are increasingly worried about repeating the financial struggles of their grandparents. Despite their lifetime of slogging that transformed the economy into an export powerhouse, elderly Koreans' poverty rate is the highest among the 38 member countries of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And this from a 27-year-old forklift driver. Quote, I fell into a panic that I might never be able to buy a house. Instead of giving up, I decided to follow my older colleagues in buying stocks. He gambled heavily on Tesla. Oh my God, trading, gambling. Yeah, I mean, let's move on. He invested heavily on Tesla and amassed a stock portfolio worth about $100,000 during the pandemic by adopting a frugal lifestyle. Sounds familiar. Currently live on well under 10% of my income. Even years ago, when my income was a fraction of what it is today, I was still putting away multi-double-digit percentages for investing. When you don't have a whole lot of money, frugality is especially powerful. And channeling half his $2,000 monthly paycheck into equities. Son trimmed his Korean holdings and boosted his stake in the car maker in June when the shares fell below $700. I guess you could say he was buying the dip. His immediate goal is to buy a Tesla and, if he can make enough money, eventually, a house. Let me know in the comments below how many of you have purchased a Tesla with Tesla profits and how many of you have purchased a house with Tesla profits. I know there's plenty of you watching. Musk's recent sale of about 7.92 million shares to accumulate cash before a trial that could force him to follow through on an agreement to acquire Twitter has drawn mixed responses from the Teslams. Some vented their disappointment on social media. You know who these people were? The victims. Everything's someone else's fault. Fuck you. Who can I blame? Who can I blame? Oh, it's your fault, not my fault. No responsibility, no culpability. I don't have an internal locus of control. It's everyone else's fault. Nothing to do with me. Blame, blame, blame. Professional victims are doomed. Others hoped for another dip buying opportunity, which didn't materialize. Son was sanguine, describing it as not so desirable, but understandable given the situation with Twitter. Fair. Teslams like myself are not changing our investment, she says. We are staying firm. I think this translates to not selling a fucking share, hodl to the moon, and so on. Truly fascinating stuff. As I said, Tesla really is an anomaly. We saw a bunch of data that just makes my point. What the actual fuck? More than 1,000 years of watch time just on Tesla-related content on a single channel on YouTube, never mind the thousands of pieces of obscure merch. And of course, the Patreon page punching so far above its weight, it's obscene. Just ridiculous. And the very fact that the mainstream media are creating articles describing the cult-like following Tesla's retail stock investors, long-term holders, really makes the point. There is no other company like this on the planet. And I'm not just talking about the company itself, the execution. That's also part of the story. But if we dig down even deeper, just a small subset of people who support Tesla, who are obsessed with the stock, who have a significant portion of their life savings in the company and believe that we are just getting started, like myself. I'm not sure a company like this has ever existed in the past. I, for one, am really fucking glad to be alive to have seen, discovered, and invested in this opportunity. So, hope you guys and girls have enjoyed the video. I mean, this thing is so fucking meta. You're literally watching a video right now, probably during your weekend with your valuable time on Tesla stock specifically, instead of doing anything else you could possibly be doing. Something to ponder. And lastly, don't forget, you can support the channel. Maybe we can even take down the #1 spot on Patreon one day with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. I've just opened submissions for the latest exclusive Q&A, so get your questions in now. Submissions won't be open for too much longer. And I'm sure you all know by now, but just in case, by joining Patreon, you'll instantly unlock well over 100 videos, my Tesla stock price targets. You have the option of accessing my Tesla valuation model as well. Loads of exclusive content and perks. So I'll see you over there. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel and instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch in the merch store. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. Please let me know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below and click the card on screen now to watch the next video.